And in the last session, we covered a Route 53. I mean, we completed the Route 53. And just give me a second. Okay. So in this session, let's talk about a relational database service, which is also known as RDS. So what exactly this RDS is? RDS is Amazon managed highly available service which can offer SQL databases as a database as a service. Simple thing. Let us say if you are building an application, right? It requires a database. Generally, what we do, so for that we will get one EC2 instance, or I can say you will have a server, right? In which you will be having like a CPU, RAM, storage, and operating system, right? Let me write down those things. So you will be having CPU, RAM, then you will be having a storage, then you will be having an operating system. On top of that, what you will do is you will install the database software. You will download and you will need to install the database software, then configure the database as per your requirement, and then you will create your a database, right? So let us say this is going to be your on-premise. This is going to be your on-premise, means you are planning to maintain the database in your office, in which everything is your responsibility. What is the meaning of everything is your responsibility? You are supposed to manage the hardware, right? You are supposed to manage the hardware. You are supposed to manage the hard disk. You need to install the operating system. You need to manage the configure the operating system, and then you need to download the database software, and you need to install the database software on your own. You need to manage everything is your responsibility, right? Where you need to spend a lot of administrative efforts, right? For that reason, Amazon is offering a service called RDS. So everything is going to be managed by AWS. You are supposed to create the database as per your requirement, and the behind backend the things will be taken care by AWS. Or you might say, okay, instead of using on-premise, I might use EC2 instance, right? Yes, you can use EC2 instance also, but the components are going to be the same, right? CPU, RAM, storage. Then on top of that, you will have an operating system, database software, configuration, and the database. So here, this part will be AWS managed. If you are planning to maintain a database on an EC2 instance, hardware will be taken care by AWS, but still you are responsible to manage the operating system. You are supposed to download the database software and you need to install the database software. You need to configure the database and you need to create your database and manage the data. Whereas in the RDS, you are only responsible to manage your database. Everything, software and database software installations and everything will be taken care by AWS. That's why we call it as AWS managed SQL database service. Why I'm saying SQL is in the databases, there are two different categories or two different types, SQL and NoSQL. And on RDS, Amazon is offering you the SQL databases. That's why we can say The RDS is AWS managed, AWS managed SQL database service, by using which we can create our databases, and AWS will take care of everything to run your database, like a hardware, operating system, database software installation, maintenance. Everything will be taken care by AWS. We are only responsible for the data which we are about to store. We are only responsible to maintain or manage the data which we store in the database, like creating or configuring the automated backups, creating incremental backups, point in time recovery. That's our responsibility. Everything else will be taken care by AWS. So you might say, okay, in the market, there are like hundreds and thousands of database engines available, right? Okay, here I use the thing called a SQL databases. Can you name a few SQL databases which you know? The best example is MySQL, PostgreSQL, Microsoft SQL. These are the SQL databases. NoSQL databases means Cassandra, right? DynamoDB. These are the NoSQL databases which we will discuss separately, because RDS is only offering you the SQL database engines. So RDS supports the following SQL database engines. The first one is MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, and Microsoft SQL Server, and then Oracle and Aurora. Aurora is Amazon's proprietary database engine, which was designed using MySQL and PostgreSQL, which means in the Aurora database engine, we have two compatible engine versions. One is a MySQL and the second one is a PostgreSQL. So we are not the database administrators, right? So we don't do any database administration and all. We only take care of the database instance, like the database maintenance, not about the data. Okay, right. So quickly, what I do is, I don't want to create anything, just I would like to show you. Let me go for that RDS service just to show you. Even I think IBM database engine is also recently introduced. Let me show you. See here, Aurora. I said Aurora, right? In Aurora, we have a two different types: MySQL and PostgreSQL compatible. MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, Oracle, Microsoft SQL, and IBM DB2. This IBM DB2 is recently introduced. These are the database engines available on RDS. If your requirement is to create a database using any one of these database engine, you can go for RDS. Let us say if your organization is looking for a database called ABC database engine, which is not available in RDS, right? In such cases, what you have to do, a traditional process: create an EC2 instance, install the data, download the database software, what you need, then install it, then configure it, and then create a database. There is a lot of difference between database instance and database, which I will show you at the time of creating the database. So what I do is create a database instance with MySQL database engine as per the below configuration. First, what we need, first thing is database instance name. I will say my first DB instance. and there is going to be a database name. Database name, I will say MyDevDB. What exactly the difference between the database instance name and the database name? Let us say if I install the database software in my laptop name is the database instance name. Database name is the actual database in which the data is getting stored. This is like database instance name means in which instance the database is getting created and maintained. So again, instance type we need. I will go with a t2.micro, which is a free tier eligible. So username, I will choose admin. Password, I will use some random password. Don't you? I will show you password. Then what else we might need? Security group. Hello, MySQL traffic. I know that the MySQL uses 3306 port, but if you don't know, no worries. Just choose MySQL traffic. Automatically, the port number will be allowed because this database must accept the MySQL incoming request, right? And also, one more important thing is database. What we call that? Access type. I will say public. What does that mean by public? Public in the sense from anywhere across the globe, the database can be accessible if you know the username and password. If I say private, the database is only accessible within that VPC. If you compare this with the real time, generally in the public subnet, the application front-end web server will be maintained and the database will be in the private subnet. And they will say access type to be private. Allow public access? No. They will set allow public access. They will set that as a no. But here we will say yes, so that I can access from my laptop itself. Then what else you need? We have a different deployment methods also. I will explain at the time of creating the database instance, like a single AG, multi-AG, multi-AG DB instance, multi-AG DB cluster. Each and every deployment type, I will say deployment type is going to be single AG or a simple. What does that mean? The database will be created in one availability zone. We have a multi-AG DB instance, multi-AG DB cluster, which we will discuss in the next coming sessions also. First, let us create. While creating, we will discuss about each and every point. How to create? First, in the search, type RDS, type RDS. We need to configure automated snapshots, like kind of backups and everything. See here, Aurora and RDS, managed relational database service. Managed in the sense, managed by AWS. This is how it looks like. Now, on the left side, you have to click on databases. Before that, see how many database instances are there? 0. By default, you can create 40, that you can extend. There's a default limit, which is called as a soft limit. Let me click on databases. Now, I would like to click on create a database. What is the database engine? MySQL. MySQL is one database engine. PostgreSQL is another database engine, and so on. Choose a standard create. What is the difference between the standard create and easy create? You can choose anything, that doesn't matter. Easy create in the sense, see, use recommended best practice configuration. Means whatever the configuration is recommended for best practice, best use cases, that will be automatically selected. But what I do, I will choose a standard create so that every piece of configuration I can select manually. And what is my database engine requirement? MySQL, right? Let me select MySQL. See, edition, MySQL Community Edition. Means this MySQL is a open source. There is no charge for the database engine. MySQL is a free. PostgreSQL is also free. MariaDB is also free, open source. But Oracle and Microsoft SQL, you have to pay a license. Keep the instance aside for CPU, RAM, and everything. For using the database software, you have to pay for Oracle and Microsoft SQL. That is called licensing. So here, for the MySQL, there is no license cost. You have to pay only for database instance, like how many CPUs you choose, how much RAM you are using, how much storage, and all. See, DB instance size. If you choose a free tier, automatically the free tier will be selected. If I choose this one, you can change that as per your requirement. Oh, I choose easy create. Go to standard create, MySQL. See here, MySQL Community Edition. And here we have different options. What is the meaning of a filter? Let us say if you are purchasing something on Amazon online store. If you say filter like free delivery, what will happen? It will only display the products which are eligible for free delivery, right? The same way here, if I enable this, what it will do, it will display the database engine versions which supports multi-AG cluster. Let me show you. See how many versions are there? 5.7.44, 8.0, 8.4.3, 8.4.4, 5, 6, 7. If I enable this, you can't see 5 dot something because that is not eligible for multi-AZ DB cluster. But here we are not using any multi-AZ, just we are going with simple deployment, single AG DB deployment. So choose the database engine version. Who will tell you what version we need? The application team. While designing the application, they will configure the application as per the database compatibility. Let me go with the latest version or whatever they suggest. Template. What is the meaning of a template? A predefined configuration, right? Production means they will give you something called which is suitable for production deployment. But what I do is even you can select this and you can change everything here also. No worries. I will go with the dev or test, whatever it is, that doesn't matter. But make sure if I select production, by default, you can see, see here, what is the size of the EC2 database instance? MD5 dot large means you will be charged a huge amount, right? That's why make sure that every option you are selecting is as per free tier while you're practicing. If you don't want to get into that unnecessary things, simply choose this one, free tier, because these are not free tier eligible. That's why you can't select the first two options, or else you can choose dev or test. Whatever the template you can choose, make sure that you have selected single AGDB instance. What is the difference between these three? There are three different deployment options, right? What are the differences? Single AGDB instance means you can see the image, right? The database will be created in a single availability zone. The database instance will be created in single availability zone where there is no data redundancy, means all the data will be created and maintained in a single availability zone. And the uptime is 99.5% of uptime is provided. Whereas in the multi-AG DB instance, one database instance will be created in the availability zone 1 and the another database instance will be created in the second availability zone as a standby. Means that will be maintained in the backend. You can see it is standby, no endpoint. Means while the primary is healthy, you can't use the standby instance. Whenever the primary fails, something got crashed and it got failed, then this standby instance, same connection will be established with the standby instance and it will provide accessibility to the users, and they are offering 99.95% of uptime. Whereas in the multi-age DB cluster, it's also deployed across multiple availability zones. But the advantage is the standby instances can be used as a raider databases. Means if your application is getting huge database read actions, you can distribute that load across these two readable standby instances. That's why you can reduce the latency. See, first 2 points are same as a multi-ACDB instance, whereas increased read capacity, instead of one database instance, here three database instances are offering the read capability. As the read instructions, read queries are distributed across the other two readers, write latency will be reduced, and uh, what we call the response time will be improved. These are the three deployment options available on RDS. Let me write down that. RDS supports three different deployment options. What are those? Single AG deployment, then multi-AG DB instance, multi-AZ DB cluster. What is a single AG deployment? Single AG? Single AG in the sense that it will create the single DB instance without any standby instances. Creates a single database instance in a single availability zone without any standby instances, which offers 99.5% of uptime and and no data redundancy, right? And then what is the next one? Multi-AZ DB instance. What it does, it creates a primary database instance with a non-readable standby instance in a separate availability zone. Let us make it more meaningful. It creates a primary database in one availability zone and a non-readable standby instance. Standby instance means it is not operational all the time, like a kind of a spare wheel in your car. We don't use a spare wheel all the time, right? Whenever one of your four wheels got inflated, we will remove it and we will replace that with a spare non-readable standby instance in a separate availability zone, which offers 99.95% of uptime and redundancy across availability zones. What does that mean? If one availability zone crashed or failed, the database is provide its services you from the other availability zone. And here the last one is multi-AZ DB cluster. Cluster in the sense a group of multiple things together, right? So here what it does, it creates a primary database instance in one availability zone with two readable standby in separate availability zones. What is the advantage? While the primary is healthy, or I can say, along with the primary database instance, the other two standby instances can offer read service. What does that mean? Whenever your application is looking for read queries, select queries, that traffic can be distributed to the standby instances so that we can reduce the load on the primary, which is also known as a writer instance. This also offers, which offers 99.95% of uptime. Okay, let me choose a single AGDB instance. Database instance identifier. What we have decided, my first DB instance. Credential settings, master username, admin. If you want to change, You can change your username also. See here, I'm changing the username. I might forget. Let me change that here. And coming to the password, coming to the password. So I can say uh, credential management. So we can manage credential means username and password, right? So here we have a two different options available to manage the credentials. What is the first one? AWS Secrets Manager, and the second one is self-managed. What is the meaning of a self-managed? Self-managed in the sense you have to assign a password. What is this manager in AWS Secrets Manager? AWS Secrets Manager is a service by using which RDS generates a password and it will be stored in the AWS Secrets Manager. So that the advantage is we can manage the passwords in a better way. We can manage the passwords in a better way. First, what I do, I will use a self-managed one, but later I will show you this one also. Because in the real time, earlier we used to have a self-managed, but nowadays everyone is using this one. Let's create one database using self-managed and the other one using secrets managed. So we can manage the credentials of RDS in two different ways. One is self-managed, means we can assign our own password for the RDS database instance. The second one, AWS secrets manage. What does that mean? RDS generates a random password and will be stored in AWS Secrets Manager service. What is the advantage? We can have a lifecycle rule to rotate the password. We will see that practically. First, let me choose a self-managed for the first instance. Second instance, we will choose Secrets Manager also. Let me assign a password. See here, don't minimum 5 printable characters. It should not contain slash, single colon, double quotations at the rate. Make sure that. Now, instance configuration. I would like to go with the T classes and T4G.micro. Or T2.micro, whatever free, just choose a TS, what we call that, free tier eligible things. Then so storage type, storage 20 GB GP3 type. General purpose SSD GP3 20 GB. Why 20 GB? You can't choose a 10 GB. A minimum of 20 GB allocated storage is required. Okay. Then just here under additional storage configuration, enable storage auto scaling. What is that storage auto scaling means? Let me write down. RDS also supports storage auto scaling feature, which provides dynamic scaling support for what exactly that means. So here I said enabled and 1000 GB. So how much I will be charged? For 1000 GB I will be charged? No. So 20 GB on, for 20 GB only I will be charged. But what is the advantage? Whenever my database storage is almost like 90% got filled, this 20 GB will become 22 GB. And 22 will become 24, 26, 28, 30, 33, like a 33, 36, 39, 42, 46. Like 10% will be incremented to avoid complete disk storage full. You will not be charged 1000 GB from the day one onwards. Based on your usage, this 20 GB will be gradually increased to support your usage. Okay. Then connectivity. So here see, do not connect to any EC2 compute resource. Means we are not connecting this database with any EC2 instance. What if I select this one and if I choose an EC2 instance, what does that mean is it will create a security group rule to allow the connection. It will allow the connection from that EC2 instance to this database by default. So we have an option called is an option which can what happened? Is an option which can establish the communication between the RDS instance and the EC2 instance by creating necessary security group rules. I will choose do not connect. Network type IP version 4 and dual stack. IP version 4 means the database instance will have an IP version 4 in the backend. Dual stack mode means it will have both IP version 4, IP version 6. Okay, then choose in which VPC you would like to create. My first VPC, project VPC, or whatever default VPC. Let me go with the default VPC. This one, public access, yes or no. If I choose public access, yes, that means the database can be accessible from anywhere across the globe. If I choose no, it doesn't get any public IP and it cannot be accessible from outside. See, only Amazon EC2 instances and other resources inside the VPC can connect to your database, or you have to use a VPN. In the real time, we will choose a no and we will configure our jump server or a EC2 instance or a VPN server to access the database instance. Okay, let me choose a public access yes. Security group, let me choose a create new because we don't have any what we call that a security group which allows MySQL traffic. I will say MySQL. In which availability zone you would like to create the database? Let me choose 1A. RDS proxy, we will discuss that, which will improve the performance, scalability, and all the things. We will have a separate session for that RDS. For now, just ignore it. Again, click on additional configuration. What is the database port? 3306. Now, database authentication, password authentication, monitoring, database insights will be monitored. Additional monitoring settings, enable enhanced monitoring so that every 60 seconds or every 5 seconds, your database will be monitored. Log exports. These logs will be available for you to read at any point of time. These logs will be published to Amazon CloudWatch logs. We don't have access to the backend server, right? But we need to see the logs of your database, and that will be exported to CloudWatch logs, which I will show you. Click here, additional configuration, initial database name. What is the initial database name we decided? MyDevDB. You can use any name, ABC, XYZ, that doesn't matter. And backups. For anything, it can be an EC2 instance or a database. Backups are a most important thing, right? Backups are most important thing. So we can enable automated backups for the RDS instance at the time of creating the RDS instance, so that an automated backup will be created every day at, or automatically will be created at a scheduled interval of time. Scheduled interval of time. At the time of enabling the automated backup, we must select we must select a retention period for the automated backups. Now the question, what is the meaning of retention period? What is the meaning of retention period? Any guess? The number of days for which automatic backups are kept. Retention period. Retention period is the number of days for which automated backups are kept. What does that mean? Once the backups age is more than the retention period, then the backup will be automatically deleted. If I say 7 days, on 8th day, today's backup will be automatically deleted. So, because old backups are not useful. And what is the retention period? We can set up to 35 days. We can skip. You can't set 365 days. You can't keep like 10 years or so. You can see maximum is a 35. Okay, let me go with a 3 days here. Backup window. What is the meaning of a backup window? At what window you would like to create that backup? I set 1 a.m. UTC. What is the meaning of 1 a.m. UTC? If you convert that into India time, just add 5.5 hours. 1 plus 5.5 hours means 6:30 a.m. Means every day at 6:30 a.m. IST, a backup will be created. The backup will be created, and after 3 days, I mean like fourth day, the backup will be automatically deleted. Like today is 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. On 14th, 10th day backup will be automatically deleted. And backup replication. What is the meaning of a backup replication? Also, we can enable backup replication by using which we can replicate the database backup to another region as a offline backup. Or I can say to another region for disaster recovery purposes. What does that mean? If I have a database in Northern Virginia, if one availability zone goes down, other available from the other availability zone, we can recover the data. What if the entire Northern Virginia region got crashed due to some flood, earthquake, or a fire accident? For that reason, sometimes few organizations might replicate their backups to a different regions, for disaster recovery purposes. If you want, you can enable it, but that is available at extra cost. You can choose to which region you would like to replicate and all. Encryption always recommended to enable so that your data will be secure. Maintenance. It is highly recommended to uncheck enable auto minor version upgrade. Just a note point. It is highly recommended to disable, uncheck this one. What does that mean? Disable. Why? What exactly this does? If you enable this one, if there is a minor version upgrade available for your database engine, that will be automatically upgraded. Why it is highly recommended to uncheck? Sometimes if the database got upgraded, it might not compatible with your application. For that reason, you have to disable it. You have to set a maintenance window also. Like I will say Sunday, 10 a.m. UTC for 1 hour is going to be the maintenance, 10 to 11 a.m. maintenance. So all the planned activities will be executed during this maintenance window, including this auto minor version upgrade if you select. enable deletion protection. It is highly recommended to select this one so that you can't delete the database. I will say I will enable it so that I will show you how to disable. If your account is not free tier eligible, then this is the cost which is incurred for your database instance per month. Is the estimate. If you're free tier eligible, the 750 hours of T2.micro is free per month. Let me click on create a database, and the database is getting created, which might take minimum 5 to 10 minutes of time. It will take minimum 5 to 10 minutes of time, no doubt in that. In the meanwhile, let us go with the credential management. Let us go with the credential management. In how many ways we can manage the credentials of RDS? Two ways, right? What are those two ways? The first one is a self-managed, which already we have seen, like the username and the password, which we can assign manually, which is going to be the constant until you change the password. The second one is AWS Secrets Manager. We will do that also. So what I do is create another a database instance, same as above, but use AWS Secrets Manager for credential management. Let us do it quickly so that it will be like a kind of doing the same practical again. Before doing that, let me show you AWS Secrets Manager. Mm, Go to the Systems Manager, in which you can see the AWS secrets. Seems they changed the UI. Okay. Let me type just secrets. Okay, Secrets Manager, type secrets. Click on the Secrets Manager. Just navigate to the Secrets Manager service. On the left side, let me click on secrets. No secrets exist, right? Okay, let's keep that in mind. Now let us go back to the RDS and let's create a new database instance with same options. But this time I will say my second DB instance, and database name, I will say different thing. Database 2 or something. Databases, create a database, MySQL, okay, single AG. I will say my second DB instance, username. Okay, let me use admin for this. And here, managed in AWS Secrets Manager, most secure. It is highly recommended. What it does, RDS generates a password for you and manages it throughout its life cycle using AWS Secrets Manager. Keep that in mind. And select the encryption key. Okay, so the password will be encrypted and stored in an encrypted format. Let me go with the T3.micro. Storage type, let me choose GP2, size 20 GB. Okay, okay. Public access, yes. Security group, let me choose existing where I can select MySQL because earlier we created, right? Additional configuration, password authentication. Okay, let me enable all the logs and I will say my DB2 is the database name. For this day, second database instance, I did not select it, enable deletion protection option. Now click on create a database. Now, what is the password of this second database instance? To log in, we should know the username and password, right? But for the first database instance, I know the username as Krishna and password because I have assigned the password. But what is the password? See, view connection details. If you click here, and what is the password? Manage master credentials in AWS Secrets Manager. Okay, now let me navigate to Secrets Manager. I will go to Secrets Manager, and we observe there were no secrets available before creating this database, right? But now, if I click secret, see, there is a secret name. This secret associated with the primary RDS DBS instance, and this is the ARN of the database. This is the password of this particular database instance. Click here and scroll down. Where is the password? Wait. See here. Retrieve the secret value. Click here. One second. Okay. So first here we need to set a secret value. Username admin. Password. Let me use some simple password. Okay, wait, sorry. We are not supposed to create. Sorry. Wait a second. I'm in a different context. Wait. Don't create the secret value because our database is not yet ready, right? The moment once the database is ready, automatically you can see the secret value here. Here you can see the secret value. And that is going to be the password of that particular database. Don't create, okay? Sorry for that. And I told you, right, the database creation process will take up to 5 to 10 minutes of time. Okay, and here what is happening for the first database? What is the status? Backup. What does that mean? The moment once you create any RDS database instance, automatically it will create a backup, but that backup contains no data. We haven't uploaded any data to the database, right? Then what that backup contains? The configuration of your database instance. Once the database instance got created, it will trigger the initial backup of the database instance. Even though it doesn't have any data, it includes the database instance configuration details. That backup contains your database instance configuration details, like what we call that. How can we say? What is the instance type? What is the instance size? What is the username? What is the password? That information will be captured into the initial backup. From the initial backup, every day, as per the schedule, an automated backup will be created. An automated backup will be created. See. Okay, so now how to log in? It seems the status is modifying, which means almost the database is ready. So how to log in? Now, log into the my first DB instance and create some sample data into the database. Why I'm going to insert some sample data? To check the backup and recovery process. In the real time, we don't create any data. We don't retrieve any data. That's a database administrator job. Okay. But here we need some sample data. That's why we have to connect. Now, how to log in? First, to log in, you need a MySQL client. We need MySQL client software. Like to log into the Windows machine, RDP client, to log into the Linux machine, SH client, to browse the websites, HTTP client, right? The same way we need MySQL client software. I recommend to use MySQL Yog Community Edition, a free tool. Then log into the DB and create some sample data. From where we have to download, just you can go to Google. I will type MySQL Yog Community Edition. Just go to the GitHub, the first one, SQL Yog Community Wiki. And let me download the latest version, 13.3.1 is getting downloaded here. Yep, it got downloaded. Let me click and install it. Kind of regular software installation. Click on OK. Next, accept the license agreement. Next, install. Next, and finish. Now, the SQL Yog Community Edition tool got loaded. But for the first time, if you are using that, you will get like this. You don't see all these information. Let me delete. These all are my like previous connections. You will get like this one. Okay, I will give a name, my first DB instance. Now, what all you need? You need some connection details, right? Username, password, and a MySQL host address. What all you have to note down is endpoint of the DB instance, like IP address, right? But they don't have an IP address. Databases, RDS instances will get endpoint. From where you will get, click on the database instance, and here you can see the endpoint of that particular database instance. Endpoint means the connection point. This. Then we need username. What is the username? I have given the username as this. And password, I know the password. Right? How to do that? So here that you can see MySQL host address, right? If the database is in your local laptop, you have to use localhost. If that is on some other machine in your network, you need to enter the IP address or the name of that particular machine. But where is the database is running? On this endpoint. What is the username? Krishna is the username. And the password, I know the password. And click on test connection. You should see this. If you are not getting this, based on the error, you need to troubleshoot. The first thing you have to check is whether you are using the correct username and password or not. Second thing, in the security group, did you allow the MySQL traffic? Now click on connect. Would you like to save the changes? Yes, so that no need to enter these details every time. And here on the left side, can you see our database name, MyDevDB? Yes, but it doesn't contain any tables or something, no tables. Now what I do is, I will create a table to load some sample data. No need to learn any queries. We are not the database administrator. Table name, I will say students info. I will use this table to store the student information. Column name, serial number, data type. What type of data I will enter? Numbers, right? Numeric. Length, I will say 3, means the serial number should be up to 999. Then the name, data type is going to be variable character. Name length should be 50 characters. Then contact number, it is going to be the numeric 10. Then comments, it is going to be variable character. I would like to say 500 characters in the comment section. And click on save. Do you want to create more tables? No. One table is enough for me for testing. See, can you see the students info table here? Let me right click, open table. and no data, right? Let me add some data here. Comment some random comment, right? Okay, now let me add the few more entries. The moment once you click on the next line, you can see here the blue color icon, right? Floppy icon means the data is not yet saved. If you click here, the data will be saved. Where not in my laptop. In this at this particular endpoint, there is a database called MyDevDB. In that, there is a table called students info in which these three records got stored. These three records got stored. Let me add a few more. Total, I created 4 records, right? Why I created? So that we can test the backups in the tomorrow session by tomorrow morning 6:30 a.m. An automated backup will be created, right? So here, what is the time now? 7:32 p.m. on 10th November. 4 records of data is available on the MyDevDB at 7:32 p.m. on 11 November 2025, right? So obviously tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. a backup will be created, and that backup contains all these 4 records of information. Already one backup was created, right? Initially one backup was created, but when that backup was created before creating the data, which means that backup doesn't contain the information about these 4 records. Let me show you. On the left side, there is one option called snapshots, right? If you go to the snapshots, there is a manual snapshots which you can't see. System snapshots, can you see 2? Yes, 2. And one snapshot belong to my first DB instance. The other one belongs to my second DB instance. See, when it was created at 7:23 p.m. means the moment once the database got created. But when we created the data at 7:32 means before creating the data, the backup was created. Now, tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m., backup will be created, and the information, whatever is exist at 6:30 a.m., will be automatically included into the new backup system. But you might have a question: what if something went wrong before the backup? No need to worry. For that, there is a concept called PIT recovery, point in time recovery. The moment once we're done with automated and manual snapshots or manual backups, then we will talk about the point in time recovery also. Okay, right. So now let me go to the secrets just to check the password of the second database. We should know, right? Without knowing the password, we can't log into the second database. So retrieve. Can you see the password? This is the password. Can you see the value? Username. Username admin, password this one. To get this, you need to wait until the database got created. Random password was generated and stored in this particular secrets. There is something called rotation got enabled, which means every 7 days, the password will get changed. Every 7 days, the password will get changed. Okay, let me show you how it works. If the password got changed, how it works. For that, I will log into the database. Here is the endpoint. Same tool, a new tab, new connection, new. I will say my second DB instance. Kind of tabs in your browser. Username admin, password, overview, retrieve secret value, This is the password. Connect. Yes. See here, my DB2 I got connected. Now, what is the advantage of this rotation is after 7 days, the password will get changed automatically. Let me do it manually. Rotate secret, rotate means immediately the password got changed. Immediately the password got changed. Why? For security reasons, it is always recommended to set a rotation, a life cycle policy for the passwords. And let me check when it was created 153. Let us say 2 is a 730. Yeah, this is the one. Let me go there, retrieve secret value. Does the password got changed or the same password? Okay, what I do is let me do a refresh here. So a new password will be automatically changed after the predefined set of configuration. That is for security reasons. Nowadays, like even password rotation is, if you're working for like let us say your banking websites, every 90 days they will ask you to change the password, right? But here, this password rotation is going to be the automated. This password rotation is going to be automated. Next rotation date, 17 November 17th, 23:59:59. Like before 1 second, 1 second before the midnight of November 17th, the password will get changed. We have a lot of things to cover, backups, right? And then point in time recovery, and then multi-AZ deployment. So we can expect like a minimum 4 days to cover the RDS topic, minimum to minimum 4 days. Okay, so as of now, are you guys clear or any questions? Any questions on the RDS? Okay, then. If you guys are clear, let us stop the session here. And tomorrow, let's continue the RDS. We will deal with backups, automated, manual, and a point-in-time recovery. That's we will cover in the tomorrow's session. Thank you, everyone. I will continue tomorrow.